So I just got to see Thanksgiving, the brand new film from Eli Roth that's based off one of those trailers that played before that Grindhouse double feature that Quentin Tarantino did that included Death Proof. There was a little teaser for a weird slasher movie called Thanksgiving, and finally, a lot of years later, we have a full feature film from it. And I have some things to say about it, because overall, I thought it was pretty good, but I do have some complaints. I see the internet really gassing this one up, saying it's like the greatest slasher film that we've had in years, and it's super fitting for the holiday, and it's really what convinced me to see the movie. And although I don't completely disagree with that, there are definitely some things about this movie that I did not like that I kind of want to air out. Some choices that were made that I don't want to say I disagree with, but I just kind of felt like we're safe. So let me get into it. First off, I want to talk about the actual slasher elements and the kills. The kills in this movie are really good. All of the slasher and the horror stuff, although a lot of it generic and stuff you've seen before, it's done well enough. And the design of the killer here, I think, is really cool. He kind of looks neat. The mask is cool. The hat, the pilgrim look, I enjoyed all of it. The cast here is okay. Patrick Dempsey's in the movie. He's amazing. He's great in everything he's in. He's a scene stealer, and just seeing him makes me happy, if I'm going to be honest. Addison Rae's in this movie. For some reason, why do we keep putting her in movies, Hollywood? Nell Verloc plays the lead, and she's fine, I guess. The rest of the cast is relatively forgettable, and I really want to get into, like, my main issues around this film, because the whole thing kind of takes place in this town, in which this horrible thing had happened on Thanksgiving the year before, and 1 year later, there's a slasher serial killer who's going around killing people that were kind of involved, and we follow this group of high school kids. And these high school kids are, one by one getting killed off, and they're trying to figure out who the killer is, and we have all these different candidates of who the killer can be. If that sounds like a Scream movie to you, well, that's exactly what this is. This movie is essentially a Scream movie. Specifically, the newest two Scream movies, Scream 6 and Scream 5. It felt so identical to those films. It's so generically copied and pasted from those films that I just could not really enjoy this one for what it was. Because it honestly is lesser than those two. Scream 5 and Scream 6 are much better than this film, and this feels like a carbon copy of it. I mean, like, everything, even from the cast itself. I mean, the main character here kind of looks exactly like the new main lead from the new Scream movies, but just the way the characters speak and interact with each other, the dialogue that's a little bit, goofy on purpose, it's satirical on purpose, like, all of it just feels like they were trying to make a Scream movie, but the most generic and predictable Scream movie possible, and they just centered it around this Thanksgiving idea and this concept from the trailer from the Grindhouse stuff to make a big film around it. Now, ultimately, I can't really hate on them for all of this, because ultimately it is successful. The movie's fine, and a lot of people are enjoying it, but ultimately, I kind of wish they went with a different formula, a different, structure for the story and concept. And the predictability here is another thing that really annoys me. The film introduces a bunch of characters early on that can be that are kind of teased as somebody who's potentially the killer in the film, and we get to meet each and every one of them, and some of them are more developed than others, but it really, by the time you get to the end of the film, it comes down to 3 different characters. But the way that they had done it and written the story is that not all 3 characters were involved in what was currently going on in the story, meaning that as a viewer, you knew that one of them was going to be the killer, and then the other 2 just weren't going to do much of anything in the plot. They were just going to disappear into the background. And that's sort of what happened. You kind of get the reveal of who the killer is, and then one of those 3 characters does randomly jump in the end and get involved, and then the third one just disappears from the plot entirely, has no role whatsoever, and then when they do come back in the final, minutes of the film, it's just ultimately meaningless, and it just felt like really poor character work. Whereas in the newest Scream 6, they introduce a bunch of characters who legitimately could have been the killer in that movie. So many different characters, and the ones that were the killers, it felt satisfying, and the ones that weren't, they still found a way to intricate them into the plot and make them a big part of the film, and this film just kind of fails on that. There's literally one character, I don't even know why they're in this movie. Like, they really they have a character arc that started, it never really gets finished, they're just there to tease the fact that they might be the killer, and then when it's revealed that they're not, there's just nothing else for that character to do, so they're just moved to the side. There's also a believability part of this movie that just doesn't work, like how a lot of it takes place on social media, and you have, the main killer has a social media account who's posting his killings and the bodies and everything, and it's just like, that wouldn't happen in real life. Those accounts would get taken down, they would track whoever's, running those social media accounts. Elon Musk would be on top of that shit, let's just be real. Like, you're telling me they were banning people questioning vaccines, but they're not questioning a guy who's posting decapitated heads on his Instagram? What the fuck, Mark Zuckerberg? But ultimately, the film just kind of felt, although it was super fast-paced paced and entertaining and had a bunch of cool kills. It felt like something that I've seen this year. It felt something that was really, really familiar and really safe, and I think that was probably the target point of making this movie. They wanted to do something safe that would be successful both critically and financially, something that would be easy to make, but it would fill like this weird void of Thanksgiving slasher films that we don't have, and ultimately I think they succeeded at that. But personally, as a fan of movies and wanting to see new stuff and wanting to see, you know, filmmakers take risks and take really big leaps in their films, I really wanted to see something different, especially in this genre. I feel like the slasher genre has been craving something different. James Wan a couple years ago tried it with his movie Malignant, but I think that movie maybe took it a little bit too far, but this genre really needs something new and experimental and great, and this film just wasn't that, but that's okay. Ultimately, Thanksgiving was a fine movie. I will give it a 3 out of 5. So that's the video, guys. I hope you guys liked it. Tell me what you thought of the movie down below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe for more. Make sure to click on the video on your screen right now. I'll see you guys in the next one.